Welcome. My name is Renee Marie Smith with FifTV, a trending 50 web series about 50 entrepreneurial women in America. We are in Washington, D.C. with the founder of Hostage US, Rachel Briggs. Thank you for being with us today.
Hi.
Hostage US is an amazing organization and it has a very interesting path. Can you please share with us what brought you to found Hostage US?
Sure. Rewind back to 1996 and I was a first-year university student in Cambridge, and I got the news which any family would hate to receive, which was that a member of my family had been kidnapped in Colombia. And it was going through that experience, 7.5 months of really never knowing whether he was alive or dead. Thankfully he did come home alive, but it was that experience of 7.5 months of worry and concern and confusion and loneliness, which led me a number of years later to come together with people like Terry Waite, who himself had been held hostage, to form a group that would mean that other families wouldn't have to go through that experience on their own before. So we set about forming Hostage UK, which was the world's first support organisation for the families of hostages.
How do you work with the families?
So the experience of having a loved one kidnapped is obviously terrifying and lonely, and for the families who go through this, they've never been through it before and they will never go through it again. So it's a very steep learning curve. So we do a number of things for them. The first thing that we do is we allocate to them a member of our family support team so that they have one person who understands what they're going through, who understands the process of hostage taking and can help them to make sense of what's going on, can help them to get access to information. That person can also do things like attend government meetings with them, so that it's not them on their own with 15 FBI agents, it's them with an advocate, with somebody who becomes their institutional memory for what they're told and can help them to follow the case. Our team also offers a range of other different support for families depending on what they need. For some, it may be that the hostage is not being paid while they're held and the family finds itself in financial chaos. So we're able to get them access to financial advisors, plead clemency to their mortgage company, for example. Others may need psychological assistance for young children at home who are struggling to cope with the fact that their mother or father perhaps is not there right now. So what we really try to do is swoop around the family, provide them a range of different support, advice, guidance, so that they really have an advocate, so that they don't feel alone and they're able to better manage that case for themselves.
Now, can you share with us, are there certain circumstances which you don't become involved in where someone is missing?
That's right. So the kind of cases that we do get involved in are classic hostage cases. So think businessman taken in Mexico City by criminals, think journalists or aid workers kidnapped in Syria by groups like ISIS, and also political cases in countries like Afghanistan. So we cover the classic hostage cases, and we also help Americans who find themselves taken by hostile regimes, so political detainees. Think Iran, think North Korea, increasingly think Venezuela or the Republic of the Congo. So we help those cases. What we don't do is help on cases where we either don't have the expertise or there are other organisations better suited. So parental abductions, where one parent will take a child overseas against the wishes of the other, trafficking cases, forced marriages, for example. So on those kind of cases, there are organisations much better suited than us who are geared specifically for the needs of those individuals and their loved ones.
Now, and I hate to use this term hotspots or trends as far as, the sensitive subject of kidnapping, but what do you see happening in this area of political issue?
Well, I think the main point to get across is that this is a bigger problem than most people realise. We estimate that there are around 200 Americans every year who are taken overseas. And we don't hear about the vast majority of those cases. There are very many good reasons to keep kidnappings under the radar. When they become public, they become much more difficult to negotiate. The value of the hostage tends to skyrocket. So we don't hear about most of those 200. I think the other thing that would surprise people is the fact that a very large number of those are happening just south of the border in Mexico. Americans like holidaying in Mexico, they do a lot of business in Mexico, particularly the main cities. A very large number of those 200 will be in Mexico or other parts of Central and South America. And these are short-term kidnaps by and large, so they are either express kidnaps or quick naps, and somebody might be taken for perhaps just a few days to withdraw the limit on their ATM over 3 daily cycles, for example. So we see a lot of that. We're also starting to see more and more complicated cases. As American businesses team up in joint ventures with other companies, we see cases where an American will be taken alongside many other nationalities, perhaps in joint ventures. Case starts to become very complicated because you suddenly have multiple governments, multiple families, and perhaps even multiple companies, employers, interested in that case. So many of the cases that we end up dealing with are those very complicated ones where extra support is needed.
And Hostage US, what's the mission now as you see it moving forward?
Well, our mission is to help the people who find themselves impacted by this dreadful crime. So helping the families to get through and survive having a loved one taken, and then helping to get the hostage back on their feet, back to work on their return. So our core mission, if you like, remains ever timeless and consistent.
And what do you see your legacy to be through, obviously, not just touching the lives in Britain, your home country, and now here in the US, but around the world?
I'm probably somebody who doesn't think about legacy too much. I mean, I focus on the here and now and what I want to achieve. But if I want to achieve anything through this work, it's that the organisations that I have helped to establish survive me, can go forward on their own, can sustain, and can grow. I think all of us who are entrepreneurial, who are in the business of creating business, need our legacies to be about creating organisations that others can take forward so that our mission can be sustained.
One of the goals for Trending 50 is to help women define success on their terms and not let our culture define what success should be for us. How do you define success for yourself?
What a great question, and actually a very important question, I think, for women to be addressing right here, right now. For me, balance has always been very important. I work really hard, I'm very focused, and I think people think I must be a workaholic, but for me, the secret of my success has always been closing down the computer at the end of the day. And for me, if I don't have travel in my life, if I don't have any kind of creative process, the work is not worth it. So I think for any woman, what that looks like for you will be different, but for me it's about balance, it's about experience, it's about making time for myself and engaging the other bits of my brain that don't get a look in 9 to 5.
Thank you so much for being with us here today.
Thank you.
This is Renee Marie Smith. Thank you for watching FifTV, a Trending 50 web series. If you enjoyed the video, hit like and share.